Hey everyone, it's BrowncoatNerd, and I know you're all thinking, please, not another video on a Zastava handgun. Well, don't worry, we will not be talking about the M88 today. We won't be talking about the M70. Today, we will finally be talking about the M92, which technically actually is yet another Zastava handgun. So right off the bat, this is a handgun for reasons of, this here is a arm brace. It is designed for you to put your hand through to stabilize it. It is not a butt stock. A barrel for, to have a rifle legally in the US without a tax stamp, the barrel will need to be 16 inches or more. This has a 10-inch barrel. It's a little bit longer with that booster on the end. But since it's a handgun, you can have whatever barrel length you want, and you can throw on this arm brace. So I purchased this from Classic Firearms, back in September of 2017 for $620. And what I got with that was this arm brace, and I also came with the booster and the detent kit. It's got the little spring and detent in there. Along with that, this gun originally comes with a spot welded thread protector on there, basically. That didn't last on there long. I literally came home from the my FFL, and from the garage went into the basement and straight to my little workbench with the Dremel tool, and that came off before it ever even stepped foot in the house. And it was nice having that little booster added along with it. Now, I don't have too many firearms that are not military surplus. Technically, this one is not military surplus. This was made for the commercial market. I purchased it brand new. Now, Zastava does make a select fire military version that they use and also sell to a number of countries, specifically a lot in the Middle East and Africa. Actually, the Iraq-made AKs are licensed copies of the Zastava AKs. So a little bit of history on the Zastava AKs. They're not true, like 100% clones of AKs like the Romanian or Polish. But in 1959, Zastava started looking into kind of making a knockoff, essentially, version of an AK. They weren't a member of the Warsaw Pact. Yugoslavia was not part of the Soviet Union. So they didn't have the option, I guess, of buying, the blueprints or the rights to make the guns. So they kind of came up with their own little knockoff version, so to say. So they started looking into the designs of that in 1959. That led to the design of the M64, which they started making in 1964 in limited numbers, which later led to the evolution of the M70, and that was to the M72, M76, M77, M82, M90, M95, M21, and within those they have tons of different models as well. So they have a whole line, from milled to stamped, 1.1 millimeter thick receivers to 1.5 millimeter thick receivers. Now, part of the reason I'm making the video on this gun, I usually try to do videos on surplus guns that don't have a lot of information out there on them. This gun has a ton of videos out there by very popular YouTube channels, but the thing that kills me about it is there's a ton of misinformation on this gun, even from the really well-known and respected YouTube channels. So I just kind of wanted to touch over a few things, kind of clear those up. So, first of all, just kind of go over the reason I got this gun. I was kind of looking for a ranged toy, something to play around and have fun with. I usually get surplus guns and leave them bone stock. And I just kind of wanted something to, goof around with at the range. So originally I was looking into a micro Draco. Didn't really know much, haven't looked much into the AK pistols. And right about then was when they came out with what they call the second letter concerning the arm braces. For a while, they said that you couldn't shoulder these. You can only rest them on your cheek, or you'd be modifying it, making it an SBR. They later came out with another letter saying, you know, well, we don't want you to shoulder it, but we can't really enforce that. So if you do, technically you're not breaking any laws. And then just recently, though, they actually ended up taking a guy to court, saying that he was using this as an SBR. Now, my understanding is they ended up getting thrown out of court. But still, you know, the guy's out court cost, and I'm sure many sleepless nights after that. So if you're looking into the arm braces, you know, maybe I'll go over some of the legalities of this towards the end of the video, for your options on that. A lot of people will buy these pistols too. And if they're in a state that's able to, you know, they'll just end up SBRing it and getting the tax stamp, and going that route with it. And there's some advantages and disadvantages of, you know, doing that compared to an arm brace. So I'll go over those later on in the video. Let's get past that for right now. But essentially, getting back to what I was talking about, I was just looking for a fun range toy. I couldn't find any of the micro Dracos, but I was finding, you know, just the standard Draco. And then I kind of stumbled across these. Now, I'll be honest, the main thing that drew me to this gun was the handguards. They've got the 3 slots, like, you know, most of the Yugoslavian AK variants do, but also has this kind of lip here, for a grip to hold onto, and I just thought that looked really slick. Now, these guns originally come with a handguard just completely bare, no finish on it whatsoever. It is sanded, but that is it. And originally I was going to go, you know, just put a basic coating on there, or oil, or, you know, not really stain it or anything. Kind of go for that military look. Originally, the military versions of these did have a underfolder, is how Zastava made the M92 versions, was with an underfolder. They also have a M85 variant that's chambered in 5.56. That came out as an underfolder, a side folder, and also had a polymer fixed stock version of those too, just so you know. Anywho, but these normally come completely bare, and I wasn't going to do much with it. But once again, this isn't really a military surplus. I should have fun with it, you know. And pure luck and coincidence, when I picked this gun up, there's a customer in there, and he's like, you know, I've got one of those, and he had sent the handguards off to get finished, and while he was waiting for those to come back, I believe he said he got a quad rail, or a different handguard, and just decided he liked that and wasn't really going to go back to the wood. And he's like, you know, I got this extra set of handguards if, you know, you want to buy them. So I got his information. I promptly lost his number. And like a few months later on Facebook, on an AK group, I saw him selling the handguards. So I touched base with them, got a killer deal on these. I got these for $60. So I have a complete extra set of handguards, plus they're stained in this beautiful, you know, dark red gloss. This isn't the look I was originally going for, but I mean, I cannot argue that that is not just absolutely gorgeous. So, no complaints. So I'll probably be keeping it like that. I thought about putting, you know, the cheese grater upper handguard on there over the gas tube, but I think I'm just gonna leave it like it is, because that's pretty. So yeah, that's the story on the handguards, and that's pretty much what drew me to this gun, was just the variant in the handguard. Looking up on the reviews, one of the big concerns is the hardness of the metal of the receiver. You're going to come across that whenever Yugoslavian AKs come up. Now, these come out with a 1mm thick receiver, as well as a 1.5mm thick stamped receiver. And the 1.5 seems to be, you know, completely, you know, a safe route. There's never been issues with it, as far as I can tell. The ones that did have the issues were the 1mm thick, which this would be it. And the easiest way to determine if you have a 1 or 1.5mm thick receiver, at least for the Zastava versions, I'm pretty sure this is across the board with the AKs, but those have a reinforced trunnion. So you're going to have a bulge here. Oh crap, I meant to grab my Vepr. But it's got a bulge here, along here. And if it has that bulge, that's a 1.5mm receiver. If it doesn't have that bulge, it's a 1mm. And so basically a bunch of them were getting egging. It's basically, you know, where these rivets are, it was getting worn out and the holes were getting bigger. As far as I can tell from what I've seen, and going off of other people that I've seen on YouTube that I trust the reviews, specifically Michiko. If you're not familiar with him, go check out his channel. He's extremely knowledgeable on firearms, specifically AKs. And he feels that it was just they dropped the hat on the quality control there, dropped the ball on the quality control. And so there was an issue. It was kind of an isolated issue. And it appears that they are better now. And looking online, I've seen pictures, people saying this is what happened to my Zastava, and about 40% of those are like Zastava builds that aren't actually built on Zastava receivers. But that's not to say that there wasn't an issue with the Zastava receivers. There definitely was. There's no arguing that. But as far as it appears, and as Michiko says, it was an isolated incident. It's done and over. So yeah, if you're curious about him, definitely go check out his channel. I've seen a lot of people kind of give him crap over the fact that he's blind, which is kind of ate up on their part. He is blind, and that doesn't reduce the fact that he knows more about AKs than probably anybody else on YouTube. But anyway, so if you're looking into buying one of these, that's definitely something to address, because if you're not aware of it now, you're going to become aware of it, and you're probably going to start sweating bullets once you see all these horrible pictures. So it is definitely something to consider. And I decided to go ahead and roll the dice on that when I purchased this. Because as far as I can tell, the Dracos have really never had any issues like that. But one of the big misnomers on this, talking about the receiver, and it drives me nuts because very knowledgeable AK videos are saying that this has, the M92 has a 1.5 millimeter thick receiver. And that is simply not true. And what's going on here is, they make this gun, and most people consider that they make it in two different calibers. But really got to look at it as they make two different guns that are very similar. The M85, which looks just like this gun, but it's chambered in 5.56, and it has that bulge trunnion, that's the one that has the 1.5 millimeter thick receiver. If it's chambered in 7.62 by 39, means it's an M92, it's a 1 millimeter thick receiver. These do not have the thicker RPK style receivers. That's only the M85 that's chambered in 5.56. Now I'm talking about these short barreled pistols. I'm not talking about the M70 and all those other variants. I'm talking about these two pistols right here. So if it's in 7.62 by 39, it is not a 1.5. Almost everybody's saying it is. Once again, Michiko points that out. I've gotten in arguments with people online about it, and this guy right here, the Grim Reaper, this is like the AK-47 Bible here. It is a great book. It brings that up and points out that the M92 is a 1 millimeter and the M85 is a 1.5. And I've even had people been like, well, I've measured mine. It's whatever. So that's one of the big misnomers. The other one is, it's not as bad. A lot of people will say that this one does have a chrome-lined barrel. Now, almost all of these Zastava AK variants, and SKSs even, including the 5966, do not have a chrome-lined barrel. I guess Zastava just doesn't have a big chrome deposit. It's too expensive for them, so they decide not to go that route with it. Now, once again, the M85, the version that's chambered in 5.56, that one does have a chrome lined barrel. I think the early ones may not have, but the new production ones now do. So there's another kind of confusion on that. Once again, that whether it's chrome lined or not depends on the caliber. So 5.56, it is chrome lined. 7.62, it is not chrome lined. And speaking of that, the M85s have kind of dried up on their importation to the U.S. Apparently, it's because of all the conflicts going on over there. I think they're just stepping up their military contracts rather than their civilian marketed commercial contracts. So right now, pretty much all you're seeing on the new market is the M92, the 7.62 by 39 version. So one of the things that's popular on these Yugoslavian AKs is the bolt hold open cutout there. Of course, you can buy that for any AK. But these do come factory like that. I'm not sure if the military versions do. I would assume they do. I don't know if this is something they just do for the civilian market. The other popular thing with Yugoslavian AKs is their magazines. And I love these magazines. I had these magazines before I even had this gun. But you'll notice that the bolt did not go all the way home. On the last round, the follower will stop that bolt from going all the way forward. Now, one of the complaints is, obviously, once you take this magazine out, that bolt's going to close. But when you shoot this gun, the impulse, you can tell just from that impulse that bolt did not go all the way forward. So while you shoot it, when you shoot that last round, just from the feel of it, you can tell, okay, that was my last round. And I've always liked that. And these are really good steel, sturdy construction. But yeah, if you take the mag out, that bolt just closes. And the other thing that is very popular to say about this gun that is not correct is that these have a chrome-plated bolt carrier. That is not true. Why is my camera not focusing here? These are just simply left in the white. It's kind of another cost-cutting feature that Zastava did. So that's not a chrome plating, that's just polished left in the white. These do, will get a little bit of surface rust on them fairly quick if you leave them out. I believe it was AK Operators Union did a short video on a Zastava where it was one that was left in the white like that, and he left it out a night, maybe a couple nights, but it got surface, just real light, probably easily cleaned off surface rust on it pretty quick. So just know that about that. Don't think that's a part you don't have to worry about cleaning because it's chrome plated, because it is not. Now on the pistol version of these, you've got your kind of typical crank style flip up sights. And you can flip it for 400 meters, 200 meters, and it's got the little 2 dots on there. The front sight, your standard post, but it does have a flip up kind of night sight on there. And that's got a very faint red dot. I'm sure the military versions of these, those were probably some, what do you call it, tritium or whatever, or at least glow in the dark, paint on there. These are just painted white, so nothing fancy there. I would like to eventually do something with that. Then there's different cheap options to paint on those to make them glow. A lot of people look into these style of guns as like kind of a home defense, which, would make sense. I would love for that to be a viable option, but these guns would be a horrible idea for home defense unless you're able to suppress it. They're loud as hell because of that short 10-inch barrel. If you're in a hallway and you fire this thing up, boom, ears would be ringing. You'd be down. But definitely if you didn't hit the intruder, you would definitely deafen them. So probably not the best option for home defense. I got it just because, holy crap, it looks cool. And, it's fun as hell at the range. And it's fairly accurate. I have only taken it out to, what's the indoor maximum? It's 25 yards, I think, at the indoor range, or 35 yards, 25. It's pretty accurate. I was kind of expecting it to be all over. But no, I was surprised by that. It's been a very durable gun for me. I've had no issues. I did have a 20-round Korean magazine. And when I used it on this gun, every once in a while, the bolt, when it was going to chamber the next round, would kind of hesitate. It would stop. It would get stuck. And just a real tap of the charging handle here, it'd follow home and you'd be fine, but it would catch up just a little bit. And that was a fairly new mag, so I don't know if that was an issue. This was back when I had my AMD 65, and I used that mag in that gun multiple times and never had any issues. And I ended up throwing that magazine in with that gun since it didn't really work too well with my Zastava. But it worked just fine on the AMD. Other than that, I've got the the 30-round Bakelite, the 40-round Bakelite, which this just looks gnarly with that in there. And then the review I did of the 40-round Bulgarian-made non-arsenal magazine. They all function just fine, and of course the Yugoslavian mags, which is kind of my overall AK preferred magazine. As long as it doesn't come to looks, because I don't know why I love that hideous orange. But yeah, overall, I think these are the best magazines. So I do plan on doing some modifications to this gun. Like I said, when I bought the gun, the kit came with the arm brace, but this thing, I don't have to tell you, it's ugly as hell. So I'm going to change out the arm brace. I'm going to go with the same style of adapter here, but I'm going to change that out. There's some different, better, more secure ones. This whole arm brace basically is just attached by the force of the grip being screwed into the receiver. There's no other, really attachment points or anything. It's just a prong slid in there. So there's some different, more secure options on setting these up. They even have some side folding options I might look into. So number one, I'm going to be changing out all this. I'll probably change out the brake as well. Or, excuse me, actually, this is not a brake. This is a booster. Now, from what I understand, the reason they made these was due to the shorter barrel, they could have some issues with running the gun fully automatic, especially after it got a little bit dirty. So this whole chamber in here is all hollowed out, and it's designed to kind of give it a little more back pressure to almost simulate a longer barrel. And so that would make it a little more durable, or not durable, but I guess more, reliable in running fully automatic, especially once it got dirty. It did work a little bit like a flash hider. With the booster on there, the flash, it still has a huge flash, but it's more of like just a straight out flame. Whereas without the booster on there, if you're just, running it with no muzzle device, it's going to be a giant flared out fireball. So this does kind of help, especially when you're aiming, your line of sight, you're not getting that big flash to mess with your eyes there. So it does work kind of as a flash reducer. Maybe not a hider, but a reducer. So there's that, and there's a lot of different options. I'm probably going to go the Bulgarian 3-piece muzzle brake route. At first, when I first saw those, I thought they looked ugly. It's like a flashlight. And over time, looking at these guns, I really like the way it looks and I think they look pretty cool. The sling here is a Hungarian leather sling. I actually purchased this for the AMD 65, but since it had no rear sling attachment, I couldn't really use it. I just kind of looped it around the tube here on the arm brace. And it's surprisingly secure. Most of the weight, there's really no tension put on this lower part because, like I said, this isn't the most securely attached setup there. But this is kind of a temporary thing. I had it lying around, so I figured, why not use it? So overall, it's a really fun gun. If you're looking for a fun little range toy to play around with, like I said, I also plan on doing some more modifications, and I'll bring those videos to you probably once I'm kind of done with it or maybe halfway through it. But there's a lot of different options you can do with this gun, and you'll definitely get some looks at the range. I don't know if they're looking at me funny because I've got an AK. Some people absolutely hate AKs, or because they're wondering how in the hell am I able to shoot this because it looks like an SBR or a short-barreled rifle. So I guess I'll kind of go over some of the legalities of the arm brace here. So your two options, I believe it's a $200 tax stamp. Not all states have this as an option, but you can apply to SBR it, which means you can own a rifle with a 16-inch or shorter barrel, so you can put a fixed stock on it. And this is a really popular gun to do that with. Like I said, the military version, the original stock would have been an underfold. I do not believe the civilian pistol versions have a underfold rear trunnion. I think it's a standard rear trunnion. So if you're going to go that route, keep in mind you're probably going to have to change out this rear trunnion. Most people will go with the triangle side folder, which isn't, kind of accurate to this gun, but it looks really nice. There's no arguing that. And then, of course, your other option would be the arm brace route, which there are a ton of different arm braces out there right now. They've really kind of taken off. Like I said, you've got different options for the mount, different ways to do it. And like I said, they even have some side folding options. But as far as legality, like I said, that second letter they came out with, they said, we don't want you to shoulder these, but you're not breaking the law if you do. And when I took this gun shooting range for the first time, the first thing I was like, hey, I just got this arm brace. How do you guys feel about it? You're going to freak out if I shoulder it. And they just kind of laughed and they're like, we're not going to tell you how to shoot your gun. And they were very okay with it. And this particular one, it looks really bulky, it's ugly, and it's surprisingly comfortable if it should happen to rest up against your shoulder. Keep in mind, you cannot modify this part in any way, shape, or form, because then you've, modified the arm brace. So just leave the arm brace. Don't, try to lighten it, cut the flaps off, or, you plug this stuff up. You got to be really careful about that, because you could be, end up breaking the law once you do that. I've even seen people say, don't even take the Velcro straps off. So I've been too paranoid to take them off. So I just left those on there. But there's different options for you. Some of them don't even come with the Velcro straps, so I don't know if, you really need to leave those on there. Like I said, this one's surprisingly comfortable. This is kind of one of the basic ones. Tons of different options out there. So in the state that I live in, since this is a pistol, I can legally carry this concealed. I live in a state where it's a constitutional concealed carry, as long as you can legally own a firearm, and are over the age of 21, you can carry a concealed handgun. This is technically a handgun. Not that I would. It's completely impractical. But just kind of give you a scope of the difference in the laws once you have an arm brace on here, once you have a actual SBR rifle. And this is also, November of 2018. God knows what the laws will change down the road. So I could technically carry this around concealed just like this, and that's perfectly legal. Whereas if I had a SBR version of this, I could not carry that around loaded, sitting next to me. And once again, like I said, that's completely impractical. It kind of makes no sense, but it's part of it. Also, if you have a short-barreled rifle, you cannot cross state lines. Where I live, I'm right next to a state. So, I'm constantly crossing back and forth between states. And sometimes I'll shoot across state. I can take this gun across state lines just fine, no issues. If it's an SBR rifle, it's good for that state. You cannot take it outside that state. If I've got a friend that wants to borrow this, I can do that. This is just a handgun. Whereas if it's an SBR, you got to be there with that handgun. You can't just loan it out. These are also a lot easier to sell because it's just a handgun. There's no extra paperwork. If you had an SBR, someone that's, eligible to buy an SBR rifle, you'd have to go that route. So just some different options in there. And plus, the whole tax, it's SBRing, it's going to cost you a lot more money than going this route plus some wait time. But, I can't argue the fact that when they're SBR, they definitely look a lot prettier than even with some of the better arm braces. But I'm going to change that up. So all in all, if you're just looking for a fun little AK variant, these are pretty fun guns. This, obviously made for the commercial market. It's not select fire, but there are military versions that are select fire, which, that kind of appeals to me because it's almost military surplusy. But yeah, just kind of want to touch on that fun little gun. I will be making some modifications to it, so I also figured I should probably bring you a video before I do too much to it, so you can kind of see, the starting point. And also just kind of wanted to touch up the common misquotes of this gun about the receiver, the bolt carrier, and the chrome lining and all that. Alright guys, well I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe, and have yourself a great day. Stay shiny.